sounds like it's on. Awesome. All right, so thank you all for showing up at 9 a.m. I once gave a talk at 9 a.m. at GrrCON, and not many people were there, so I definitely appreciate you all coming. So, story behind all this. I didn't submit a CFP to GrrCON because I lost track of time. So all my friends were going, and I'm like, but I want to go to GrrCON too, so I hang out with James over here, my bestest friend. And I wrote GrrCON and said, hey, can I speak at your conference? I know I totally suck for not submitting a CFP, but can I come to your conference? And like, oh, we can do better than that. You can keynote our conference. So this is my second keynote ever. I will try my best not to suck. I also am a little hungover, but I tried not to drink too much. But you know how it goes. You start drinking and then suddenly it's 4 a.m. and you're wasted and there's really not much you can do about it. So here we are. I made it on time to my talk. That's all that really matters. All right, so this talk is called Burning the Enterprise with BYOD. Of course, BYOD means bring your own drink, which I failed to do. There's no beer on my stage, which is unfortunate, James. You should totally fix that. Some assistant you are, huh? So there's no beer, so I just have to be hungover on the stage, which is cool. All right, so who here has a bring your own device policy at work? Anybody? Who here thinks it's a really great idea for security? Me! Because I like to break your security, so it's a good idea for bad, terrible security. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But let's be honest here. If they didn't let us bring our smartphones and tablets and things to work, we would be very unhappy and we would go kill all of the security people. We would get our pitchforks and we would have them all murdered. And unfortunately, we are the security people, so we're just going to have to deal with this thing. Trouble is, of course, that bring your own device isn't really all that new. When I had my first job ever, I worked for the US government. Kind of glad I don't anymore, or you guys would all probably come at me with your pitchforks. But they gave me a laptop. I was a government contractor, so I got a laptop from IBM, my employer, and I plugged it into the network, and it ran some sort of security scan. Put up your hands and wave them. Some security scanning happened, and my laptop was deemed secure enough to go on the network. I can assure you, based on some of the crap I put on there, it was not remotely secure enough to go on the network, but it was deemed so. So that laptop is technically an instance of bring your own device. The security team, well, me, didn't really have any say in that laptop. IBM did. I didn't even have admin rights on the thing. I couldn't do anything. And then, of course, there's always our access points. We don't allow random wireless access points in our enterprise, right? They have to be controlled by the IT and security teams. But then the CEO walks up and says, I would like wireless access that has web so I can put my PSP or whatever game console on the network. It doesn't support WAP2, whatever crazy enterprise shit. So I want an access point that works for me, and I'm the CEO, so I can tell you to do whatever you want, bitches. But the security team, of course, we say, no, you may not have an access point like that on the network. Never, that's bad. So what does the CEO do? He walks over to Best Buy and says, I want an access point that has, web on it. Or better yet, open security. I like open security. At my house, all of the access points are open because I cannot for the life of me figure out how to make the printer authenticate with a closed network. And I want to print things. Speaker contracts are important, so open security everywhere. Functionality above security. And then he comes in and he plugs in his wireless access point, and then of course joins the network. We don't have the authentication of any devices on the network. What are you talking about? So now there's some open wireless access point on our network, and we don't know anything about it. That's bring your own device too. Who here has a game console in their break room at work? Nobody? Who wants to? Who thinks it would be very good for company morale if they could play video games? Lots of people, all right? Well, who brought that game console? They think the company went and bought it? No. Somebody brought it from home. And, you couldn't possibly write some nastiness and compile it to run on a PlayStation. I mean, it's not Linux underneath or anything, is it? So there could possibly be nastiness on there as well. So why is everybody freaking the fuck out over these mobile devices. I'm sorry, I swear a lot. It's bad. I apologize to anyone in the audience who doesn't like the word fuck. It's an adult word, as Nikita would say, and we should all practice using it as much as possible, particularly on stage. So why are we freaking out over the mobile devices? The only thing I can come up with is the mobile modem. Though not all mobile devices have a mobile modem. We got the iPads and things. You get a much cheaper iPad if it doesn't have a mobile modem, but even the Google Tabs have mobile modems now, so they perhaps have mobile modems. I like mobile modems because it means I can get internet when I don't know what the password is for the Wi-Fi around here. Yeah, so our problem, of course, is quite simple. If this is the company, we can watch everything that's going in and out. Also, the NSA can watch everything that's going in and out. But we didn't know about that until recently. Okay, let's be honest here. Who here was surprised by any of that? Anybody? Security people who were surprised that we're being spied on? It's like, I kind of figure if I can do something, probably the government that has bazillions of dollars to pay for this stuff can probably do it too. So it's like, oh, you're spying on my cell phone. I hope you enjoyed all those nasty text messages. They said fuck a lot. But our problem in the enterprise is we want to know where all of our data is going. We want to be able to say, I know where my data is going, but as soon as it hits this iPhone over here, we have this mobile modem problem. There is a cell tower out there. It may or may not be the correct cell tower. We've seen some attacks in the past on cell towers and the phones where we can get them to attach to, say, the cell phone tower sitting on the podium. I can just, drop you guys all back to Edge. You can get a little jammer from China for like 20 bucks. I can jam all of you. You drop back to 2G, and then you'll all attach to B. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. But that's a problem. We don't really know where that data is going. Apparently the NSA does, but we as the enterprise are kind of worried about what's on that cell tower and what of our data from the enterprise is potentially going out to that cell tower. How do we fix this problem? I don't know. A lot of people have come up with ideas about like mobile device management. Anybody have mobile device management in their enterprise? Mobile device management can let you do a lot of stuff, like completely lock down the phones. But how do we feel after we spend all this money on an iPhone and then our company says, you can't have Angry Birds, you can't have Twitter? What do? We get our pitchforks out and say, I bought this device, it's mine, I can do whatever I want. You can't make me do your mobile whatever policy. Fuck you guys. So here we are. Oh, thank you. Ask and you shall receive, huh? Thank you, GrrCON. Let's talk together. You bitch about not having a beer and they bring you one. See, I was going to make some really bad joke and I decided to get sick because the camera's on. I was going to ask for drugs next and see if they would show up.
Stand by.
No, I totally want to be a rock star. I totally have to like smoke a joint on stage, right? Like Snoop Dogg. I'm not funny. Alright, so we've got these mobile devices. Yes, it's true. I'm not funny. You do not have to laugh at me. It's okay. I won't cry. I put black eye makeup on, so if I cry, it'll go all over my face and be unattractive. So no matter what you do, I will not cry. Alright, so we've got these mobile devices and we want to put them on the network. Well, what do we do when we want to test the security of a device? Well, we run a vulnerability scanner, right? That's what we do. We run a vulnerability scanner, and if the vulnerability scanner says it's cool, then it's cool. So, I ran a vulnerability scanner against my phone just to see, and it said, everything's fine. There's not even any open ports on this, which kind of confused me. There were. But this is my iPhone. Yeah, so this is what one of the, I guess it says Nessus to the rescue. I guess you can kind of tell, but all of the security scanners are pretty much the same. They seem to 1 over 10 mobile devices don't exist. So that's what it had to say about my mobile device. So if I'm a security team, I'm gonna be like, yeah, that passed. Cool, put it on the network, whatever, I don't care. So I have bullet points. A friend of mine says bullet points are the death of all good things in PowerPoint, but it does it by default, and I don't know how to make it stop. So we have bullet points here. You're all welcome to throw your stress balls at me about it. But the iPhone that I just scanned, one, it's jailbroken. Well, it's not anymore because I updated it, but it was jailbroken at the time. It had SSH, so why it's not pulling up port 22 is a mystery onto me. It has the default Alpine password, so anybody can log into it as root. But our Nessus didn't see that, and it doesn't have NPM or anything, so this is just a wide open iPhone that happens to be walking into your network today. You know, your big enterprises, they put up NPM and all this stuff, but let's be honest, I've worked for a lot of small companies, and we don't have time for this. We just give you the wireless password, you put it in your iPhone, and you're on the network. Let's be honest, we have better things to do with our time than deal with people's iPhones. You should get Androids, they're better. That's all. Because I like to hack Androids more, so when I hear that Android is the top-selling platform, I'm happy. Why? Because Android's easier to hack. iPhone and all their silly restrictions. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what are these super ultra awesome threats that everybody says are against our mobile devices. Aren't they just kind of the same as a computer except a little bit smaller? Who here likes apps? Who here is obsessed with apps? I need 2 hands for this one. Nobody is obsessed with apps here. Crazies. You need to get into this because apps can be pretty awesome. Like, you can do anything on your phone with apps. Like, take over other networks. But when I get a new phone, or I wipe my phone because it got hacked, again, hope you all enjoyed all those nasty text messages. Again, whoever hacked my phone at GrrCON, thanks. But the first thing I do when I wipe the phone is I download Twitter. Because I like Twitter, it's my favorite. My mom just got a new phone, and then like 2 minutes later, she had Sonic the Hedgehog #1 on the phone. And they made her pay like $9. Seriously, the people in the entertainment industry are doing it right. That game came out like around the time I was born, and people are still paying money for it. I mean, come on. My stuff's gonna be old in like 2 weeks. People are still playing Sonic 1. I quit. Fuck security. I'm gonna go be a game developer. All right, so these apps, right? They do cool stuff. But what are they potentially doing in the background? Regardless of your platform, your apps have permissions on your device. Android makes you click a little button that says, yay, I approve of my phone being totally destroyed by the Twitter app. The funniest thing is mobile antivirus. You look at the permissions those things ask for, and it's like, you should really be doing a better job of preventing viruses because you just asked for complete control of my device. I mean, you may as well just give it root. It's over. But every app that somebody brings into your environment could potentially bring about flame and destruction on the entire place. But how do we stop people from downloading apps? Mobile device management can do that. You can put up your own custom app store, and you can only download these apps. But again, pitchforks. That's no fun. You can't really say all these apps are good and all these apps are bad and somehow be able to come up with the entire app store and all of this. We could take everybody in this room and spend a year doing it, and we probably still wouldn't be done with one single app store for one single platform. It's just not happening. So our only way to be secure is not allow people to have apps at all, except for our apps that we like, but people don't like that, so that's not going to happen. So what the hell are we going to do about it? I apparently don't know how to change the font. Like, all of this, I changed the background to black, and then I changed the font to white, and apparently there's some black back there. If your employees have I assume that says smartphone, what apps do they have on there? Do we actually know? Can we say, I know every single app that's in the enterprise? I can't. So, probably not. But we just have to assume that there might be a malicious app. Be it malicious on purpose, be it malicious by accident. You don't have to have a secure coding degree to write for an app store. Which is good, because I'd never get anywhere. I don't write secure code. Never. Another nice threat is software bugs. You know, when there was the first iPhone jailbreak on like iOS 1, and we realized that everything, including the browser, was running as root, people were surprised by this. What? Bugs in the iPhone? Bugs in a computing platform? What are you talking about? That never happens, right? Anybody here ever written a program that it was completely free of bugs? Not me. Yes, hello world, perhaps. When someone said hello world, there might be a bug in the compiler. So even hello world doesn't work. Software has bugs. Secure coding is hard. Secure coding is particularly hard if you don't think about secure coding like me. Like, I want this thing to work in 2 days at Black Hat. Let's write a web interface and not do any input validation. Great idea, right? Unfortunately, that's how most of your developers in the world are thinking. You don't sell products because they're secure. Look at how many people have been hacked. Do you think Sony is really hurting? Did anybody, when LinkedIn got hacked, did anybody go delete their LinkedIn profile? Anybody? Nope. So yeah, there's no payback. I went to this business conference and I'm like, this is gonna be really lame with business stuff. But it was actually really eye-opening. It was like, you always think, oh, these people got hacked, or people said their products were insecure at DEF CON. It's over for them, right? They're screwed. It certainly felt like it was over for me when people plastered it all over the internet that I write insecure web interfaces. I cried a lot. I made my eye makeup run. But I'm still the keynoter at fucking GrrCON. It's gonna be okay. So we just have to assume software has bugs. Anything we deploy in the enterprise may have bugs, even if we have the most up-to-date version, which, let's face it, we probably don't. I mean, really, all the time, computers like, you need to update Flash, or you need to update Adobe Reader, and I'm like, I'm doing something right now. Wait. Let's admit it, we all do it. Security is hard. It always wants to update, but I'm working. Come on, I'm in the middle of a talk. I cannot update my fucking software. This is hard. Same thing with our mobile devices. Our software has bugs. The Android kernel has bugs. The iPhone kernel has bugs. The iPhone really likes to throw down the gauntlet. They put out a new version of iOS and they say, no one will ever jailbreak this device. Never. Cut to like a week later and somebody has an untethered jailbreak. But that's just the nature of the beast. One bug, well, in the case of iPhone, it's like 9 bugs chained together at this point. But bugs are going to happen. We're just going to have to deal with this. And it sucks. Your browsers have bugs. Every piece of software you run on them has bugs. It's interesting, Java keeps having issues, right? Java gets some O days. And in the event of a Java O day, perhaps the most secure way to actually browse the internet is from your mobile device. Why? It doesn't use Java, it uses WebKit. Also known for lots of bugs, of course. But in the event of a Java O day, the only way you're going to be safe on a Java page is through your mobile device. Weird stuff, huh? But everything has bugs. It's all over. What are we going to do about this? It gets particularly interesting with your Androids because they don't even allow you to update. I get it. I really do. If I were a cell phone provider, I would make people have to update to get the latest versions of the operating system. They have to buy a new phone, they have to give me money, they have to renew their cell phone plan for another 2 years. But seriously, fuck these people, that's ridiculous. Because you're not getting your security updates. What would we do if Windows just said, what, your computer's 3 weeks old? You can't have any more updates. Fuck your enterprise. What would we do about this? Probably nothing, we would just deal with it. Why? Because it would take too much effort for us to migrate everything to a secure platform. Everything's already running Windows, it's already in place. We don't have time for that, right? Yeah? No? Just look at me like I'm insane. I'm making this shit up, right? I don't know anything about security. Social engineering. Okay, so I used to think social engineering was a bunch of crap. Social engineering is what people do when they can't think of anything technical to talk about. They come up here and talk about social engineering. I've been reformed about this because I never did social engineering attacks. I'm like, nobody would ever fall for that. That's so stupid. Nobody is that stupid. But then I woke up one morning and I had the iPhone plastered to my face and it had this big indent on my face. And I look at it, it says, you've won a $1,000 Best Buy gift card in a text message. And I was like, yay, more phones, happy. And I clicked on it got popped, and it sucked. And that was a social engineering attack on the phone. And I fell for it. Me. I just hit myself in the lapel. Ouch. Where's the Nerf gun? Every time I say Martin Voss likes to hit me in the face. I ask him over and over, please stop shooting me in the face. And that makes everybody laugh, and I'm not sure why. What exactly about asking a guy not to shoot you in the face is funny? Apparently every guy in the audience knows. Anyway, so I used to think social engineering was a load of crap. You know, people like Chris Nickerson make a career out of it. And I thought it was crap. But again, I'm reformed because I started my own company and somebody said, can you do a social engineering exercise for us? And I said, well, sure, I can do anything, right? So I pull up the social engineer toolkit, awesome tool, and I clone their website, and I make a little login box. It doesn't even obfuscate the password. I break a couple pictures of the clone of their site. So it looks really stupid, and it's also my EC2 instance, so the browser bar just says like 172, whatever. So it doesn't even really look that sophisticated. And I register a Gmail address. It's like companyhr@gmail.com and have the name say company HR. And, I don't do a very good job here. And I'm like, this is never gonna work. This is really stupid. So I deploy it and I send it out. People start clicking on it and they log into it. And I was suddenly reformed about social engineering entirely because it actually does work. Which is sad, I guess. But what are we going to do about it? Apparently nothing. Security awareness training obviously isn't working. It doesn't even stop me from clicking on the damn text message. It's like the apps, right? If I want to use Twitter on my phone, I have options. I can use TweetDeck or the official Twitter app, or I can try and open it in the browser. But if I want to use Twitter, I have to accept the risk. There's balloons up here. Apparently my breath sucks. I was going to blow a balloon for you guys. But we have the same problem here with the social engineering. I want the $1,000 Best Buy gift card. Now my theory is if I could just find the one guy from Africa who really does want to give me $1 million, it'll be worth it, right? I'll have $1 million and I won't have to do this anymore. So I should just keep answering all of them because the ultimate law, say I lose $100,000 in the process, if I end up with $1 million at the end, I've won. This is why I don't gamble in Vegas. But even if, let's pretend that no one ever falls for a social engineering attack via email. We're done with this. We don't click on links. What if it comes in a text message? I already told you what happened to me. What if your app puts up something and says, click on this and you can get alternate levels on Angry Birds? Let's admit it, we're all going to click on it. We're obsessed with Angry Birds. At least we were a year ago. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit out of date with things. But we can open malicious links in the browser. We can download malicious apps, perhaps. We can do all sorts of nonsense. So social engineering is alive and well, unfortunately. And everybody's favorite, jailbreaking. Who here has an iPhone? Lots of people. Who here has a jailbroken iPhone? Not many people. You're strange, you know that? Everybody jailbreaks their iPhone. Good thing to do if you're bored one day. Go stand outside the supermarket and have your little pen and paper and look like, you're selling something. And you ask everyone that comes by their feelings about jailbreaking their iPhones. You get some pretty interesting answers about why people jailbreak, but they do. And it's just something we're going to have to deal with. We call it rooting in Android, but people do that too. I don't know why CyanogenMod is so much better than official framework, but people do it regardless of the platform. And we in the enterprise have to deal with this. Again, our MDM solutions like to say, we can detect jailbreaking. All they're detecting is the Cydia app. If you don't download Cydia in your jailbreak, they won't see it. On the Android, bin SU, so I call my super user, my root shell, like SU1 or FU if I'm in a bad mood. And MDM doesn't see it anymore. So this is, again, kind of a losing battle. People want control of their devices. That's just how it's going to be. Apple says, you can only do what we say with your $8,000 device you just paid for and all these metallic colors. And we say no. We say we will exploit the hell out of this thing until it does what I want. The problem that most users probably don't understand, and even those who do, I jailbreak my iPhone, and I'm not smart enough to write a jailbreak by myself. So what do? I Google, and I say, I have an iPhone 4S, and it is operating system version this number. Find me a jailbreak. Whatever comes up on Google, that's going to be what I click on. It's actually pretty interesting because typically these things make you download something to your PC first, hook up your iPhone, and then jailbreak so you can actually hit their computer and their iPhone, 2 for the price of 1. Because you're explicitly giving some random person who has a funny name like Po6 Ninja control of your device. You are asking them to exploit you. They don't even have to be sneaky about it. They say, I'm going to get root privileges on your device. And you say, yes, please. What does it do after that? Once it has root privileges, as long as your Cydia app shows up, you're happy, right? You got your jailbroken phone, you're good. Some evil piece of nasty got root privileges on your device, potentially put you in a botnet, did whatever, you don't know. Your MDM solution certainly doesn't know. So what are we going to do in the enterprise about these jailbreak people? Well, we're going to say we have a no jailbroken device policy. But how the hell are we going to enforce it? Chances are we're probably not. As long as it doesn't have the Cydia app, it can't see it. I've yet to find an MDM solution that can see anything that's remotely out of the ordinary. If it has a specific signature, anybody who's had any antivirus research, it looks for a specific signature. I change it a little bit, it doesn't see it anymore. We're in the same boat here with the mobile devices. We cannot detect what's happening. Doom and gloom, right? All right. So I'm on your mobile device, and I got all your crap off your mobile devices. I have all your text messages, all your emails, any company data that you possibly store on the device. I've got it. We've known this for a while. But what else can we possibly do? Does it get any worse? If I say you can only have this specific data on your mobile device, that's all the data that was stolen, right? It's done. It's over. Well, let's go back to the beginning and say, we just put our phone on the network, right? That's generally how it goes. Maybe you have a segregated network. Probably you don't, unless you work for a big company with a big budget and a big IT staff to implement that. Chances are, oh, we have the wireless password for our laptop. What happens if I stick it in my iPhone? Magic, it connected to the wireless network. I have an IP address. I don't have to use my data anymore. But what about all those other devices on the internal network? Because let's face it, we're starting to do a pretty good job of taking care of our external network. I do external pen tests. I know it's probably going to be pretty boring. They're probably hosting their web server with like GoDaddy, so it's out of scope. Ooh. Oh, look, it's a VPN. Oh, look, it's secure. Yay. Oh, an SSH server. I tried some passwords. They didn't work. This is a boring report. Internal pen test. Anybody here do pen testing? Anybody? Few people. Internal pen test. That's when all the crap happens. But let's take my home network as an example. I'm possibly the worst person out there for internal security. We've already talked about the security of my wireless access point. But, for instance, I'm teaching exploit dev later today in the workshop. Exploit development. What do we need to learn the basics of exploit development? We need some really old, vulnerable shit. And we need it running on the network so we can attack it over the network. So if I just leave all my VMs running on the network, vulnerable stuff, yay, system privileges. It gets even worse because I do stuff with web apps and I actually put it like right on my laptop, or I did this at my old company. I was trying to write an exploit for a web app. I finally got it working and then, I kind of forgot about it. 6 months later, I realized this old vulnerable web app was still running on our company network. Nobody noticed. So this just happens. Our internal networks are crap. Let's say version of Mac OS, these things can run exploits. I just have to compile them with the right compiler. This actually isn't that hard. So every mobile device that's compromised could potentially not just be stealing the data on the phone, it can attack anything else it sees. In your home network, in your enterprise. It's nasty stuff. So we can attack the mobile devices, we can attack the traditional PCs, we can attack your servers, we can attack anything. We can make them call back out to the internet, suddenly get out of your network. But I had one pen test ever where I had a problem with getting out. You know, they were doing some really cool egress filtering. They said, unless you're Internet Explorer authenticated with the domain, you can't get out. So unless I could migrate into the Internet Explorer process, which I kind of have to actually have connectivity to do, I couldn't get out. And this depressed me. And I like to fix problems that don't really exist. Because 99.9% of pen tests, this won't be a problem. You got in, oh yay, send it out over like DNS or HTTPS, your interpreter's gonna show up, yay, everybody's happy. But, like I said, I like to fix problems that don't exist. So I wrote something that would allow us to actually bypass any egress filtering they possibly had. So we're on the mobile device over here, we're on the network, we attack these computers. For some reason they can't call out to the internet, we're getting caught. So what do? Instead of calling out to the internet, let's call back to the phone locally. So we can do that, we're in the same network. The phone, of course, if this guy can't call out to the internet, probably this guy can't either. But what does this guy have? Mobile modem. Let's send it out over text message. You can't see me. So we could potentially get all of our data exfiltration through a medium that you guys have no way to tell what I'm up to, which I find rather exciting. So the question, I do pen testing, a couple of you do pen testing as well. Who's on like the security team at your company? It's your job to keep things secure. The rest of you are just coming to hang out, right? You don't do pen testing, you don't do security, you just want a day off work, right? Yeah. I like days off work. Unfortunately, I don't get any because I run my own company now. But I do pen testing. So my clients say, is our environment secure? And I run a pen test against them, and I probably say no, but you know, maybe if they're doing a good job. These are all the things you can fix. These are all the things you should implement to make yourself less likely to be compromised. But then they ask me, well, Georgia, you do mobile device security, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I go around the world and talk about bullshit like this. They're like, so, what about the mobile devices in our enterprise? Did you test those? Like, well, they weren't in scope. You only let me test 2 servers for a period of about 2 hours. So no, I didn't test your mobile devices. It's like, well, can you? And before I ripped my tool, I was like, well, no, not really. And they're like, well, what if we hired somebody else? What if we fired you? Did somebody else test the mobile devices? I'm like, no, I don't think so. So how do we assess the threat of this device? Obviously there is one. I just spent all this time bullshitting about said threat that may or may not exist. I could be making all this up, right? This may not actually work. Apps are completely secure all the time. And I'm not funny. That makes them laugh. But how do we assess the threat of these devices? And then the better question, my question, is, once I get on your device, what else can I see? So I wrote this little tool called SPF, or the Smartphone Pentest Framework, that allows us to do all of that. It has some previous history of vulnerabilities in this web front end, so it doesn't have a web front end anymore. I didn't want to secure it. I would rather write new stuff, so I just deleted the web front end and you have to use the console. Sorry people who like GUIs. I like them too, but oh well. So we can actually test for vulnerabilities in the mobile devices and then use the mobile devices as a pivot to start attacking other stuff if we like. So, I've talked enough shit. Let's do some demos. May the gods forgive us. Because, you know, they'll never let you do your demos right on stage. I realized I should probably turn on the vulnerable system. That's probably a good idea. All right, so let's do some demos. Anybody want to see some demos? Yeah? I like beer. All right, so let's see what we got here. We got a couple of Android emulators. Android's nice because you can emulate it, and so you can see it, whereas if I had my phone, I'd be like, look, my phone's doing something, and those of you in the very front would be able to see it, but the rest of you would just have to believe me that I'm not, bullshitting you, which I usually am, so you should probably actually delete the app that's already infected on here. It is 9 in the morning, you gotta give me a break here. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna wake up really early in the morning and get everything ready, and guess what I did? Yay, alright, so let's kill that. Alright, so I've got 2 Android emulators here. This one's old, it doesn't particularly matter. The attack we're gonna do will work on anything. This one's controlled by our pen tester. I've also got everybody's favorite Kali Linux over here. You guys use Kali Linux or Backtrack? Yeah, lots of people for Backtrack and Kali. So Kali's just like Backtrack, except we had to change everything in all of our books and training courses everywhere. But other than that, it pretty much does all the same stuff. Let me actually open the vulnerable VM. This one. So I'm going to pull up a Windows XP. Does anybody here still run XP in their environment? A few people, yeah? It's hard to migrate. It takes time. We have better things to do. Seriously, that's going to really impact our productivity if we move to Windows 7. Look around an airport sometime. I don't know what their deal is, but they are obsessed with their Windows XP in those airports. Yeah. So, anybody coming to my workshop later? Nobody? Couple people? All right. They're probably all still asleep. So, one of the programs we're actually going to exploit is something called WarFTP. It's very old, good first example for exploit development. So let's exploit this guy with the phone, turn it online, yay. What's its IP address? 1111. Okay. That sounds right. Okay, I think that's hard-coded in, actually. So let's open up SPF, my Smartphone Pentest Framework. Make this a little bigger so we can see it. View, zoom in. Framework.py. It used to be in Perl, now it's in Python. Who loves Python?
Yay!
It is 9 in the morning. I'll give you guys a pass on that one. You guys are not nearly as loud as DerbyCon, which should make you want to scream because you're better than DerbyCon, right? Right?
Yes.
All right, so here's our little console here. I'm going to clear the database. That's a good idea. So what we can do with SPF is actually have it hook up to a mobile device so we can use its mobile modem. We can either plug in a USB with a SIM card in it or just use the device we already have. So in this case, this guy. So we can actually hook up to it with SPF. So let's do number 4 and attach to a smartphone-based app. Number 2, its phone number is just the emulator phone number. They should really put less 5s in these things. I make mistakes a lot to that. And I call it GrrCON for GrrCON. And these guys are just basically going to handshake with each other. And I say attach and it doesn't. That kind of bothers me. Did I get the IP address wrong? Yes, I did. Which means it's wrong in my config file too. Kill, die. They all hate me. I knew the demos were going to go to shit today. You know, you're keynoting, everything's got to go wrong, right? 103. And 103. And now let's start it. Alright, so let's try this again, shall we? Grr to YouTube. And change our IP address to check back into to 103. And now we hit attach, and the magic happens. Yay, I managed to make my tool work. Yay! Alright, if that's the best I do on stage, at least I got clapped for. All right, so we were talking about malicious apps. Let's just do the easiest attack there is and create a malicious app and deploy it. So what we can do with SPF, we have a couple options. We can backdoor some source code, any source code you have for an app, or we can also backdoor a precompiled application. So we can basically decompile it, backdoor it, compile it back together. Anybody heard about the Android master key vulnerability? Got a lot of press. You can also do that. So if there's already an app on there, we can actually make it replace it and make it say that yes, it is a valid update, even though we don't have the correct security keys for it. But let's just do the easy stuff. So let's generate an agent app. Number 2, DS store should not be in there. Git is hard. All right, so just by default, you can have it have a blank front end, or it has the Google Maps demo. So let's just do that one. So it has some sort of front end. Who do I want it to connect back to? The device I control, 5554. My cryptography is really bad. Key 1 should never be your key. That's horrendous. And where do I want it to connect back to? Android Agent 1 is easy for me to remember. So these backdoored apps can communicate via SMS or HTTP or both. So it's going to build this using the Android SDK, so I don't have to install anything. It just magically makes it work. Yay, build successful, I'm happy. So how do we deploy this? Various social engineering methods we could use. Let's just do the easiest way and ask them to download it. Let's just do number 1. This is an Android agent for Android. Where do we want to put it on the web server? I don't care, GrrCON. File in, app.apk works for me. It can deliver it via SMS or near-field communication. Naturally, emulators do not have near-field communication, but if you have a phone that does, you can, walk up to people's back pockets and deploy applications on their phones. Charlie Miller did some good research on this. Naturally, we need to say SMS here. And who do we want to send it to? 5556. Yes. And we can change the text in the text message to whatever we want. I'll just let it do the default, which is kind of lame. But what it's actually doing is it connects to this guy that we're attached to, and it's going to use that modem to send the text message or near-field communication, as the case may be. And sure enough, we get a text message over here. This is a cool app, is the default text. Again, not very exciting. And naturally, we being curious users, we're going to install this thing. We can make it come from, say, their boss, so they have to download it, or else they'll lose connectivity, and that'll make everybody unhappy. I've run 81 tests of this. That's how many times I screwed up. And we click install, and we open it. And it looks and feels exactly like whatever the original app was, but it just has some extra functionality. So we can attach to it from SPF. So I just need to tell it the key and where it's checking in, Android Agent 1 and key 1. And this is going to take a minute. So while it's doing that, I'm actually going to fix the exploit to call back to 103 instead of whatever it was. It is 103, right? That's my IP address, yes?
Yep.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to make my payload fixed. Don't watch. I screwed up and didn't fix it. lhost equals 192.168.20.103. Bad characters, which we'll learn all about in my workshop, are the null byte 40. What's the at symbol? Is that 40 or 20? Nobody knows? I think it's no.
TCO.
And 0A and 0D. Yeah, this looks right. And I want its format to be C, and I misspelled TCP. Thank you. All right, so this is just going to generate some shell code for me while this is doing its thing. Let's see how SPF is doing. Oh, it worked. So while that's generating. So now we've attached the agent, and we can make it do stuff. Currently, these are all the things you can make it do. You can remotely control it. You can make it attack other things, which is what we're going to do. You can make it do privilege escalation. Currently, we just have the privileges of the app, which are many, but but we don't have complete root privileges on the device. We can make that happen. We can download and execute things, like we can run in-map. We're kind of running short on time. I always talk too much, but there is already in-map binaries for mobile devices. You don't even have to compile it. So we can do number 6, download file. So I actually even implemented it where we can just run in-map. So number 12 will run in-map. So this is, I haven't said it yet, but this is all open source and on Git, so you can just do this yourself. But we're just going to attack the other application. We're going to attack more FTP. And we can even like get a list of all the installed apps and then start pulling them up and doing app pen testing against them. Let's see how my shellcode's doing. Yay, shellcode. That looks shellcode-like. Yeah, it's even the right amount of bytes. Yay. Alright, so I'm just going to copy this into my war FTP exploit. Again, I apologize for being completely unprepared for my own talk. That never happens, right? Everybody's completely prepared for their talks. CD, exploits, Windows. Nano, I like Nano. Oops, I need .c, the uncompiled version. So now I'm really going to bore you while I delete all this, and all of you guys who like VI are going to say, all you had to say was DD, and it would have made that go away, Georgia. Learn how to use VI, right? Who likes VI around here? Lots of people? Yeah, VI. I should learn how to use it, but not well enough to use it on stage. Because, yeah. Alright, we're almost there. You guys don't have anywhere better to be, right? Like in bed. It is, what, 9 something in the morning? I'm impressed that this many people showed up. And we're almost done with all the shellcode. Yay! Dancing. I'll do a little dance while this works. I'm not funny, I know. Alright, so let's copy in our shellcode to call back to the right place. Yay, shellcode. So this is going to call back to 192.168.20.103 like we told it to. This is just a little C version of an exploit. So we haven't really done anything profound here. Our real profoundness is that we're going to make this run on a mobile device. So if I just run GCC on that, it runs on my Linux box. My Android device doesn't know how to talk to that. So you can, of course, build a tool chain for that with the Android NDK, and it took me a lot of time. And I like to make your life easy, so we can just hit number 9, compile code to run on mobile devices, and it will compile it for us. So it is at root, Smartphone Pentest Framework. Let's make it as hard as possible to type this stuff, Georgia. Exploits, Windows, war FTP interpreter, .c. And where do I want it to output? Root desktop works for me. War FTP interpreter. And then it's going to build that. It threw a bunch of warnings because I'm a bad coder. We talked about this. I have bad coding skills. I actually need something to catch it, don't I? I need some sort of listener to catch my shell. So let's start up Metasploit while we're at it. Again, something I probably should have done before I got on stage. Alright, so what we're going to do with this guy, we're going to drop this compiled code onto the exploited Android. So any application can write to the file system. They all just get a files directory that they can write to. And what's interesting in the case of mobile antivirus is that the only thing with root, of course, can see everything. But other than the application itself, no other application has rights unless you explicitly give it to them to read any file in that folder. Hide your exploits there. We'll talk about this, well, let's just talk about it now while MSF console is starting up. So mobile antivirus is complete shit. So somebody wrote me one day and said, oh, mobile antivirus is catching your privilege escalation attacks because I had it actually in the original app. It would just have the exploits in there, like Rage Against the Cage, XNOs, all of that. And at install, mobile antivirus would see it. So I'm like, oh, cool project for a talk. Let's bypass mobile antivirus. 10 minutes later, I bypassed it. Not much of a talk. All you have to do is download it afterwards. That's it. It can't see a thing. Is that ridiculous or what? Okay, so, use. Oh, we already did use. I should know how to do Metasploit. Set, payload, Windows, interpreter, reverse underscore TCP, set lhost 192.168.20.103, exploit. So we have a listener to catch our shell. So our Kali Linux might be out in the atmosphere somewhere. It might be on an EC2 instance, whereas our Windows VM is in their internal network. So these two cannot directly talk to each other. We can't just directly exploit them. My phone can though, so we can make the phone run the exploit for us, which is what we're about to do. All right, send commands to an agent. Number 2, download file. It's root, desktop. Let's try to remember where I put this thing. Or FTP interpreter, hosting path, I don't care. Or FTP interpreter, be the file name. Let's just deliver it over HTTP again. We can deliver it over SMS or HTTP. It'll take a certain amount of text messages to download an entire file over SMS, but it can do it. So let's give that a second to download, and then we'll run it, and hopefully the magic will happen because I gotta get off the stage, and it would really suck if my last demo didn't work like it did in Black Hat. That was embarrassing. All right. So we can actually see this guy if we want to. Let me go to Android SDKs, platform tools. So this is kind of cheating. ADB shell on emulator 5556. Of course, ADB wasn't running. So again, every application gets its own directory. .android.google. .apis. So it has a files directory, and if we look in that files directory, we can see War FTP interpreter just got downloaded. Again, any application can do this, and that's a really good place to hide your exploits that might have antivirus signatures, because aside from the app itself and root, nobody else can see that that's there. So a good place to hide anything you don't want anybody to see. Just a side note. So now let's go ahead and run this guy. So I want to execute a command, number 7. Command is war FTP interpreter, the IP address I want to attack, and the port 21 FTP. And was this binary downloaded? We can run a system binary or any binary that we dropped. Binaries that we dropped are actually going to be in that files folder, so I say yes. Let's just deliver it over HTTP. And next time that agent checks in, this guy should go haywire. So we should see nonsense VATs basically. It goes insane. And then if we check back here to Kali, and look here, we just got interpreter. So this isn't the text messages I said I was going to do. We're definitely run out of time on that. But what did I just do? So again, this kind of looks silly because we're all on one network here. But Kali, again, is external, has no network access to this guy. This is somebody's desktop. They're trying to learn exploit development. They're running more FTP. The phone joined the internal network, and we ran the exploit from the phone. It attacked this guy. This guy calls back out to Kali. And we now have system access on an internal device without ever walking into the enterprise or even performing a pen test on the enterprise. Is that scary or what? Yeah? No, nobody's impressed. Thank you. Thank you very much, as Elvis would say. All right, so slides, so I can show you the very, very last slide. Play from current slide. So the gods did forgive us, even though I didn't set up everything in time. So the demo gods, thank you. Alright, so we kind of already talked about mobile antivirus. All you have to do is download anything nasty that might get picked up after the fact. It's really only scanning and install. I tried every mobile antivirus I could find. I couldn't find anything that would pick me up. It will pick up signatures, so if somebody goes out and says, this is what Smartphone Pentest Framework apps look like, it can see it, but then all you have to do is like change your paths and stuff and just make it look a little bit different. This is no different than Windows antivirus. Mobile device management can do a lot of things, but the problem is everything cool that it does takes away so much from your users. Like, you can actually say with mobile device management, you cannot download any apps except the ones we say. That's never going to happen though, it's just not. Security awareness training? Well, it hadn't worked yet. Find a way to make it work, and then you'll be on stage forever, because social engineering will never die. So those are the rebuttals that I don't think actually work as rebuttals. If you can think of a rebuttal to stop this from happening, let me know, and I'll add it to the slide. Last but not least, here's my blue is a terrible color on black. Why would it do this on purpose? Okay, so I'm Georgia. I run a little company named BYOD Security. If you have any work you need done, I like to do work. And I can do anything, as they say in the Israeli army. So, GeorgiaVeidman.com and BYODSecurity.com. I do a bunch of online classes if you want to learn how to do stuff like this or exploit development or anything. And best place to get me, honestly, is Twitter. Just my name, Georgia Weidman. So, thank you all for coming to my talk.